30, 35.
I think for a moment. CO2.
Woo!
Pressure.
Put a fourth one in there.
Is it that second one up top there?
Third. My friend 6.8 Western has quite the load there, and the pressure of getting a really good 3-shot group got to him. In all reality, though, that just happens with groups. There's usually a flyer, but I mean, if we only count 1, 2, and then the fourth shot, that's under quarter MOA. But the fifth shot that I didn't show on camera, it came in at a 0.540 inch group, which is extremely good at those velocities with the 170 grain. In today's video, I really want to do a deep dive into the 6.8 Western and how it really compares in real world velocities to the 6.5 PRC and the 7mm PRC. Now, this comment was kind of the inspiration. This video is not meant to demean the comment. It's hopefully educational, because the 6.8 Western is quite underrated, almost a dead cartridge at this point, sadly. I think what really sets the 6.8 Western apart from the newer other cartridges is that it actually gives you real world velocities that match or exceed the book and the box velocities, which is nice. And what kind of is disappointing with the 7 PRC is, well, I'm not trying to be mean, but it definitely is a paper tiger. Let's go ahead and look at the case differences. On the right is a 6.8 Western, on the left is a 7 PRC. What I've noticed in some of my videos are people are kind of thinking they're really close to each other in case capacity, which is kind of. The 7 PRC definitely has an advantage, and we're going to measure the water grain capacity here in a few seconds. But the 6.8 Western has a wider case, but the 7 PRC is a bit taller. Let's go ahead and see what their water grain capacity is. So this is pretty simple. We're just going to take a case and then zero the case weight. We're going to start with the 6.8 Western. Then I'm just going to fill it up with water. And the official measurement with this specific Winchester case is 73.1 grains of water capacity. Let's go ahead and fill up the 7 PRC. The official measurement for this Hornady brass in this specific case for the 7 PRC is 82.4, so almost a 9 grain difference. I'm kind of scratching my head at how the 7 PRC is underperforming so much when it has a decent advantage over the 6.8 Western. Now, we don't need to go into in-depth of the Hornady Powdergate debacle, but let's just talk about it real fast. When the 7 PRC was released, they were most likely using Reloader 26 to achieve this very good velocity of 3,000 feet per second. Then they no longer had access to it, and so they started using Stayball HD, H1000, and what people are getting on average, probably around 2850 to 2880 in a 24-inch barrel. For 22-inch barrel, you're looking at 2800 or lower. So it's underperforming quite a bit. What I want to do next is compare factory ammo between the three of them, the 6.5 PRC, the 7 PRC, and the 6.8 Western. Now, what I've noticed, most 6.5 PRCs are getting box velocity with the Precision Hunter. At a muzzle velocity 2960, you have 2,782 foot-pounds. At 500, bullets go on 2251 and 1,610 foot-pounds of energy, 8.29 MOA adjustment in elevation, and then 2.37 adjustment MOA for a 10-mile-per-hour wind. Now let's take it out to 1,000. The bullet is not going fast enough, 1654 to expand on game, and the energy is not very good, 869 foot-pounds, 25.1 MOA elevation adjustment, and 5.82. 7 PRC with the 175 grain ELDX and the Precision Hunter ammo. Yes, we are using the Hornady ammo there's reports that Federal will get you closer to 3,000 feet per second. Muzzle velocity of 2850. You know, I've seen 2,800 and 2,900 with 24-inch barrels, so we're just going to go right in the middle. 3,157 foot-pounds of energy. At 500, the bullet's going 2217, so it's going a little bit slower than the 6.5 PRC. But with a bigger bullet, you get more energy. You're at 1,911, so you're getting a 300-pound advantage. And then in MOA drop, it's dropping a bit more than the 6.5 PRC. Tad advantage in wind drift at 500. Out to 1,000, again, the bullet's not going fast enough to expand to hunt. And then your energy, 1,091. So, I don't know, probably 250 more foot-pounds of energy. But again, it's not as flat, but it's really close at 26 MOA. And then 5.44. Let's look at the 6.8 Western with a 165 grain AccuBond long range from Winchester. Muzzle velocity, yes, the 6.8 Western actually gets muzzle velocity. In fact, most of the ones I've seen actually get faster, so we'll just say 2970. 32 foot-pounds of energy, so more than the 7 PRC at the muzzle. At 500 yards, the bullet's going 2255, and your energy, 1863. You are within 50 foot-pounds of a 7 PRC. 8.25 MOA elevation, so it is flatter to 500, and 2.53 in windage, so a slight advantage for the 7 PRC. At 1,000, the bullet is going 1652 and 1,000 foot-pounds, so they're within 91 foot-pounds of each other at 1,000 yards. 25 MOA, so technically the 6.8 Western is just a tad bit flatter than 6.5 PRC and 1 MOA flatter than a 7 PRC. And then 5.8. It's right there with the 6.5 PRC in wind. Now that we looked at factory ammo, let's talk about max hand loads, what we can expect from each of these. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to compare all of these with 26-inch barrels. In my personal 7 PRC, it has a 24-inch barrel, and I'll be honest, I'll be the first one to admit that it's kind of a slow barrel. With a max load of reloader 22 with a 175 ELDX, I didn't even break 2,900 feet per second. So we're going to use the 26-inch barrel for all of them. For the 6.5 PRC, we're going to use a 143 grain ELDX. For the 6.8 Western, we're actually going to use the 170 grain Berger Extreme Outer Limits bullet. And then for the 7 PRC, we're using a 175 ELDX. Let's start with the smallest of the bunch, the 6.5 PRC with the 143 grain ELDX. And we are doing a muzzle velocity hand loaded of 3,050 feet per second. And your muzzle energy is 2954 foot-pounds. Now let's take it out to 500 yards. We are at 2,328 feet per second, 1,721 foot-pounds of energy, and in elevation in MOA, it is 7.72, and then in windage with 10 mile per hour wind is 2.41. Now let's get out to 1,000 yards. The bullet's going 1716 feet per second, and your energy is below 1,000 foot-pounds. It's 936 foot-pounds. Elevation in MOA is 23.4, and the windage is 5.57. The 6.8 Western with this 170 grain EOL with a muzzle velocity of 3,035 feet per second, your energy 3,478 foot-pounds. At 500 yards, the bullet's going 2352 feet per second, the energy 2,089 foot-pounds. So the 6.8 Western has a sizable advantage over the 6.5 PRC, and it in elevation at 500, 7.7, so they're basically identical, and then a small advantage for the 6.8 Western with windage with 2.2 MOA. Then we take this out to 1,000 yards, and what we're looking at is the bullet's going 1,768 feet per second, and your energy, 1,180 foot-pounds of energy. It has a slight advantage in elevation with 23 MOA, and a slight advantage in windage with 5.2. Now let's talk about the controversial one, the 7 PRC. My gun is slow. I'm only getting 2873 feet per second with a max loader reloader 22. But let's just think optimistic for the 7 PRC and assume you can get 3,000 feet per second with a 26-inch barrel. It has almost 3,500 foot-pounds at 3,498 at the muzzle. At 500 yards, the bullet's going 2347 feet per second. And your energy is 2,141, 60 to 70 foot-pound advantage over the 6.8 Western. The drop is 7.8 MOA, so the 6.8 Western has it beat barely. And then the windage is identical, 2.2 MOA. Now, once we get out to 1,000 yards, we are looking at the bullet going 1,785 feet per second and 1,238 foot-pounds. Very, very similar, with a slight advantage to the 7 PRC. In drop, the 6.8 Western barely beats it. The 7 PRC has 23.1 MOA. And in windage, the 7 PRC does win, but not by a lot, 5.0 MOA. The 6.8 Western is quite formidable, but what's holding it back? The Winchester marketing, well, it could be a lot better. Hornady's also trying to kill this cartridge. As you can see why, it almost performs exactly the same with less recoil and less powder. For non-hand loaders, the 6.8 Western is a problem because, well, you can only get it in a Winchester or Browning rifle. Now, I think Winchester and Browning make pretty good rifles, but some people don't like that. For the hand loader, the biggest issue with the 6.8 Western, the brass. Now, rumors are ADG this year is looking at making brass for the 6.8 Western. But as of right now, you are stuck with Winchester brass, and Winchester brass is garbage. There's also the problem that bullet selection for the hand loader is pretty limited. The high BC bullets that you get are a 165 AccuBond long range and a 170 grain EOL. That's about it. There are some Sierra bullets, but they don't have as high of BC as even the 165 AccuBond long range. Now for you 7 PRC owners, let's start with the non-hand loaders. Don't buy Hornady factory ammo. Get some Federal ammo. It is faster. You'll at least get very close or at 3,000 feet per second with a 175 grain. Now for you hand loaders, I know some of you have already figured this out, but a good friend, Alaskan Ballistics, always says about magnums, if you want a magnum and you want magnum velocities, get a 26-inch barrel.